Hey everyone, this is Otto coming to you from Goblin Bomb Radio. On today's show, we have a few tips on how to play your classes, and we have a full run of Brayflox Longstop Dungeon Run. So please enjoy, leave comments, leave questions, and we'll get back at you as soon as possible.
Alright, welcome back to the Goblin Bomb Radio. It's episode 6. I'm Pharaoh. With me as always is Tank.
Yo, what's up, guys?
And the Otto.
Yo.
And we took a little bit of a hiatus because of the last show was a bit of a weird, like, midweek kind of show that we don't usually do, so we apologize for being absent for a little longer than normal, but we're back. And this week I think we're going to be talking a little bit about, like, I guess the roles and what you're supposed to do within that role, kind of like an advice kind of thing. We don't want to sound like we're the shit or we know everything, because we're not. But we see a lot of people in the duty finder that, I guess for lack of better words, just really don't know what they're doing, or they don't really understand their role in general according to what class they're playing.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with, newer players coming in, they're getting their skills, and they're really not reading what those skills do. They might check the damage or something specific, but they're not reading what's going on, possibly.
I think the biggest thing that I've ever seen, well, I shouldn't say the biggest thing. Maybe the most common thing, I guess, maybe that I've seen is tanks that. And I don't mean you, Tank. I mean the role of Tank. Those guys, like, they were playing either Marauder or Gladiator, and down the line Paladin and Warrior. It seems like there's a lot of them that want to be damage dealers, apparently.
But that's not going to happen.
No, definitely not. It's kind of hard not to think of yourself as that, though. I usually don't play a tank. I'm usually a damage dealer myself, a monk or a lancer, but when I started my warrior, you got that big ass axe, you got awesome armor, you want to go destroy some stuff, and that's not what they're built for.
Well, I mean, warrior is more so than paladin, but they're still not. They're not a dragoon, and they're not an archer or a bard, or a monk or a black mage.
Right. They're meant to take a hit and keep the hate, keep the mob on you.
See, but when you look at it, though, the warrior is sort of like a hybrid between damage and a tank, in a way.
Right, I would agree, in the sense that it's more than a paladin or gladiator, whatever you want to call it, but they're still definitely a tank, like, no doubt about it. I would even say more than 1.0.
Yeah, I definitely say that as well. But although, see, the whole thing is they look badass. First and foremost, and what they're built for doesn't fit their look. They look like they're supposed to do punishment, and they're really not made for that. They're just made to hold the hate, or the aggro, however you want to say it.
Enmity, threat, there's all different types of names. But, I mean, essentially, you don't see any of this, really, until you get into the dungeons, which is essentially starts at level 15. And then you really do, like, at least for MMO players, people that do play MMOs on a regular basis, we see it a lot. There has been a lot of issues with, for lack of better words, dicks going into the duty finder and not giving these new players, like, a chance and not trying to help them learn. And that's kind of what we wanted to do today, is, like, at least, for a lot of the people that are new to the MMO world and new to the game in general, like, we kind of want to be able to help you guys a little bit, at least from what we know, to be able to do your job better.
Right. The community as a whole, as far as your server goes, is usually pretty good. I don't want to stick on this for too long, but when you go in as in the duty finder, it's chances are you're getting from other servers, and a lot of the time the most conversation we get is like a hello, or a high, something like that. Sometimes they don't say a word at all. They just take off running. So, yeah, this should definitely help, hopefully.
So, I mean, let's break it down real fast. You obviously got the Trinity, which is tank, damage,
Healer.
and healer, right? Sorry. So as a tank, you're gonna you'll be either a gladiator or a paladin. Both of those are the same thing, so we may refer to it that way. It's hard to say. And then you have warrior, which is Marauder's class or Marauder's job. Marauder's the class. See, this is where it gets all. So from now on, let's just go like this: Paladin is gladiator, so we're going to say paladin, and warrior is marauder, so we're going to say warrior. Sound good? Good.
Good to me.
Okay.
Just keep it simple, dude, you know? Because that's what you turn into anyway. Like, honestly, I personally think they should just get rid of the classes and not even bother, but that's a whole nother show for another time. So, you got warrior and paladin, which are your two tanking classes. Tank, you are a warrior, level 50, and Otto is a level 50 paladin. So I'm gonna let you guys handle those.
All right, go ahead, Otto.
I was gonna hope you go first, but I guess I'll go. When it comes down to paladin, the most advice I can give anybody, and from what I've noticed, is people do not use flash a lot. Flash is basically like your best friend. You rotate it between your moves, as in, let's say, start your combo. You do Fast Blade, then Savage Blade, and then Rage of Halen, I think it's called. And right after that, you can either, release Flash, of course. Bam. That right there just created like a chain of hate. From what I've seen, people is all they go is they just run in and do the combo. Bam. Combo. Bam. And then while you have like 4 or 5 mobs aggroed, they just start spreading everywhere and going after the healers, and that's like a big no-no, That's why Flash is your best friend. You always gotta pop it left and right.
Well, I would say the one thing I think I've noticed, though, and maybe you were going to get to this, but I'll just squeak it in there as much as I can. A lot of... See, you do it, and I've noticed because we party together plenty, so I see what you do. But a lot of other times when I do enter the Duty Finder, I see a lot of the paladins that don't switch targets. They don't, rotate their target within, a pack of 3, let's say.
Yeah, see, I rotate mine. I try to at least keep the hate balanced, and then plus the flash hits all of them, so it's adds towards everybody.
I just want to say quick, the reason Otto's saying this is switching targets. If, you're going to have people in a duty finder that come in that never did it before, or might be on a class that they never tried before, they don't really know what they're doing 100%. So if you get a black mage in there nuking the hell out of a particular mob, and it isn't the one specific mob that Otto's tanking, he'll pull hate from him.
And then that's when chaos happens and everybody dies.
Yeah.
Exactly. Then you're running around like a chicken with the head cut off.
No, I mean, I would say that it's pretty much, I would say that because I've tanked a little bit on Warrior, so I would say that it's probably similar in the terms of switching targets. I think it's helpful on both jobs.
Another thing I've noticed, though, from other tanks, when I've done healer or a DD class, which was Black Mage, a lot of tanks don't use their defensive abilities. You have plenty of them. You have Sentinel, Rampart, Bulwark, and then he actually has his level 50 ability, which is the Hallowed Ground, I think it's called. Those right there are also key. When bosses do major hits, pop those off one at a time. Go ahead. That will save your life. I've noticed a lot of tanks that do not pop those off, and then I'm watching them trying to heal them. Their life is draining crazy, and it's really, dude, come on.
So what would you say tank is different on Warrior?
Well, Otto, with I don't know what level you get Flash at. I don't really remember. I think it's pretty early, isn't it, Otto?
Yeah, it's around the 10s, between 10 and 20.
Okay, well, for this discussion anyway, you don't really have to worry about any of that per se until, like Pharaoh said, you get to a dungeon. Your first dungeon is at 15. So the thing I do with Warrior is he has a ranged attack. It's called Tomahawk. I lead off with that. As soon as I run in, I have Flash equipped because it's a sub job for Maraudering Warrior. And then I use Overpower, which is a cone AoE. and that holds, that has a lot of enmity to it. And then I start switching targets just like Oto does.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think switching targets is key. Especially when you run in and you're not doing a one-on-one fight, and you got 3 mobs that come at you, switching targets. When I've tanked the little bit that I have, people cannot pull hate from me when I'm switching targets like that.
As long as you're quick doing it and you get used to doing it, it's going to take practice, everybody.
Yeah, it does.
But I think with tanking, the main thing here is communication. It seems to me usually when you're tanking, when you're doing the tanking, you're essentially the leader of the party in most cases, because you're the one that dictates what happens with those mobs.
Which way you go and everything.
Yeah. So you communicate, make sure you're communicating with the people that are in the party with you. Tell them if you have to mark them, if that's what you like to do. I don't. But if you have to mark them so they know who's first, second, third, so they know who to attack.
Yeah, which then I guess in a sense leads us into the DPS, which is my home turf. And I know Tank and Oto, you both dabble in it as well. But I pretty much exclusively play DPS. So here's the key with DPS, okay? Hit what the tank is hitting. Don't hit the mob that's on the right side of him that he's not paying attention to, or the left side that he's not paying attention to. Hit the mob that the tank is hitting. Plain and simple. It doesn't matter if you're a Dragoon, a Black Mage, an Archer, or anything for that matter. Even if you're one of the healers and you're just throwing on a damage over time effect, put it on the one that the tank is hitting. Usually with DOTs, though, you can drop them on anything and be okay, just as long as you don't overload it.
Now, though, you gotta be careful, though, because there are some times where there will be ads that come in, and then the DPS have to go take care of the ads by themselves.
This is true. I see a lot of people have this misunderstanding that DPS is like a snooze fest. You just, you fucking hit whatever, and that's pretty much the end of it. It's really not the case, at least not in this game anyway. As a DPS, you really do got to pay attention. Like, you have to pay attention to everything. You don't want to be caught in AoE circles, so you have to pay attention to that, especially because the tanks, first of all, need to get out of them too. I see that way too much. Just because you're a tank, you should avoid them or stun them. That's another thing DPS does. You should be stunning when you can.
Slowing. Yeah,
that's another, especially if you're a Dragoon. If you're a Dragoon, strongly encourage using feint and putting slow on mobs. Everything is like a big synergy. As a DPS, if I slow the mob that tank is, or Oto's tanking, right? If I slow that mob's going to hit Oto a little less, which means he's going to take a little less damage, which also means that the healer doesn't have to work as hard to try and heal Oto. So there's a lot to everything, and everything works together when everybody does their jobs right. You will fly through dungeons like they ain't shit.
Yeah, the big thing here as a damage dealer, as far as I can tell, and Monk is in my soul. I just want to put that out there. First and foremost, my first 50 was Monk. That's my favorite character. But just staying calm, paying attention to what's going on, and helping out where you can. There is going to be a lot of movement, and not both, but all the damage dealers other than Thaumaturge or Black Mage, you're moving constantly. A lot of them are positional based, so.
But you don't move too much on Bard other than when you have to.
Bard, you can actually play while moving. If you wanted to.
That's true, too. You can run around in circles and still shoot. But, yeah, I mean, and then you got, like, healers. It sounds pretty self-explanatory. It sounds like, you heal. Well, you also got to pay attention to debuffs that the tank gets. There's some debuffs that essentially debuff your healing on that person. So if the tank gets hit with the debuff, the healing debuff, and then you go to heal him, your heals aren't doing jack because he's got the debuff. So you, as a healer, well, maybe as a white mage, you want to use Asuna and clear his debuff. So like there's so much more to goes into everything when you really do start getting into it. But I mean, as far as basic stuff, healers definitely have to pay attention. They probably have to pay attention more than anybody else does. Because for the most part, when you're a tank, if one gets away from you, as long as you have a DPS that sort of gets it, they're usually going to try and pick up that one that broke off and try and defend the healer. So as a tank, you don't have to like freak out. You know what I mean? You still want to get that ad back, no question about it. You still want to get that one under your control, but at least with a DPS that knows what they're doing, they can buy you a little more time.
Absolutely.
Now, I will throw this out as about the healers. That is an important class. For those who ever try to pick it up and actually learn the class, I give them mad props. I tried healer, and it's harder than what you think.
Yeah, I think that, obviously the healer, to me, is the most important job in the party. Because without them, I mean, you can't have a party without a healer, otherwise you're dead. Period.
Well, you know what? Since we're kind of giving advice, I want to put this one out there. No question that I want to get this one out there. When you get a red circle around you, or you get the lines that go onto you, or the cone shape one that comes out in front, I don't care what class you're on. I don't care if you're on tank, DPS, or a mage, or healer, or archer, or anything. It doesn't matter. The second that red goes around your character, you need to move. Don't try to finish off what you're doing. Like, especially if you're a healer, do not try to finish your cure. Don't try to finish your raise. Don't try to do none of that. Just move immediately. Do not try to finish your animations. DPS, same exact thing. Don't try to finish your animations. Tanks, same thing. Don't try to finish. Get out of those things, quick.
Let me explain the little red things real quick, a little bit more in detail, because from what I've noticed, I've seen people say there was lag issues in the game. There's no lag. The issue is, like Pharaoh said, when the red lines appear, get out. If you're on there and the red lines disappear and you're still there and then you try to escape, you're going to get hit automatically. There's no escaping it. You have to leave the lines before it disappears.
Yeah, and they're all on different timers, too. They're not all, the same thing. You could have one that takes 3 seconds to disappear, and then you might have one later that takes 5 seconds to disappear. So you just gotta, as soon as you see it, get the hell out of there.
And another thing that also comes with some of those moves, you will notice, which I actually picked it up a few weeks ago because Pharaoh told me about it. On top of the enemy's name, they have a bar where it charges. That is the move. You can stun them or escape before that fills up.
Yeah, I mean, really, most important is obviously the healer, because the healers are the ones that really cannot take the hits. DPS might manage to live through some of them. Tanks might live through some of them, most of them. But all you're doing is, if you stay in that circle, if you're a tank and you stay in that circle, now the healer's got to make up for that extra damage that you could have avoided. So now the healer's taking like extra time to do that, and then the DPS is taking damage from a no circle AoE, because some of the bosses do that stuff where they have moves that is going to hit everybody, plain and simple. There's no avoiding it. So the DPS now, he's down on health, and your black mage is down on health, and now your healer is down on health because your tank decided to say screw it. And
yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, when I go in as DPS, as a monk, I'm kind of a gunslinger. I'll take the chance to stun before the mob goes out. So a lot of times I'll stun it, and it works most of the time. But there are a few occasions that I hit the stun and I was a little too late, or it's unstunnable and then I get smacked. So
yeah, I mean, just get out of the circles. The second that you see them, get out of them. Do not finish your stuff. I'm telling you, it will save you so much more grief than it's worth, than staying in is worth. And it's really easy. And most of the time, believe it or not, unless it's one of the circle ones, when they do their cone ones, if you're the tank, you literally can run straight through them. And you're clean. You escape. You don't take no damage. The only thing is, once you go through them and they've done their move, go back to where you were. because if you don't, then the boss turns around and kicks everybody's ass, and that's not good either.
Here's another tip that I noticed too, real quick, as far as the cones and the circles. When you leave, when you move away from those, as soon as that disappears, you can start to run back already. So you leave, you're out of it. As soon as that red circle or cone shape or square, whatever it is gone, then you could run back in immediately. You don't have the animation isn't going to hurt you. It's the red line being up that you need to worry about. So as soon as it disappears, run back. And trust me, you won't get hit. Just try it. You'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Otto said. I mean, I don't think lag is really that much of the factor here. I think it's just more that people don't understand what the circles and the cones are. And that's it. That means if you do not stop what you're doing and literally get out, you're going to get the hit. You're plain and simple. You're just going to get hit. And that would probably be the number one thing I see the most, is especially with healers more than anything else, is they always try to finish off their cure, and that's what's getting them hit. And I mean, pretty much there's so much more that we could get into with that stuff, but it's like it's hard. I don't want to overwhelm anybody either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're right. There's a lot. We could go on for an hour or so about this stuff, but
I mean, the battle is going to get more intricate, especially starting around like 32 with Brayflox. One of the dungeons, it's Brayflox Longstop dungeon. The final boss in there is the first time you're going to see something very different than any of the dungeons you've done before. So, as a quick tip to anybody that didn't get to that point or is just at that point. The final boss in Brayflox will spit poison. It basically creates like a poison circle on the ground. When he does that, if he is in that circle or touching that circle at any point on his body, and he's a big dragon, so if he's touching the poison, he's going to get healed. So you need to move him. You need to, as a tank, you need to move him away from the green stuff, and you're basically going to go around the room with the boss. It's the first time you're going to fight something like that, so I figured I'd give you a little hint anyway.
Yeah, that's nice of you.
Well, I know that, first timers don't expect that. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that's like, it's because it's the first time you see it, you're kind of like, how the hell was I supposed to know that was coming? You know what I mean?
I've actually seen parties where they raged at the tank because he couldn't get them out of the little poison area. Yeah, that is actually a good tip to give out.
Well, that fight in general is rough on everybody involved. The healer is going to have to pay attention because the thing randomly spits that acid at certain people, and usually it's a healer. So you got to recognize it and be able to move. Damage dealer's got to get out of the way of the red rectangle that he shoots out, which is pretty damn big. So, yeah, that fight's kind of rough. So just pay attention. You're probably going to, your first time through, unless you have a really good party, you're probably going to wipe 2 or 3 times. But just keep at it and you'll get it.
Yeah, you'll definitely wipe. But now that I've given you that little tip, you should have a slight advantage to at least going in blind. But that's pretty much where the game starts to change, right at like 32. And things start to get harder. I mean, not that those are hard dungeons in that level range, but they're different than the ones before that you've experienced. So it does gradually start to progressively get harder at that point. So you guys are going to want to definitely pay attention. Pay attention to your chat logs, your battle log, so that you can actually see when they're going to do something. The other thing maybe as a little tip is, sometimes it helps a lot to condense your UI, and if you're a healer, you may want to bring your party list a little closer to your center of view, so your center of your screen maybe.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, switching your UI up to suit you, to where you can see everything, is definitely an important part of the game.
I mean, and we'll continue to try and give you guys help, at least from what we can. I mean, the way that we run dungeons is unorthodox, I think, maybe to most people. We tend to avoid looking things up on like YouTube or on any kind of website or any of that stuff. We like to run things and learn them ourselves.
What do you always say, Otto?
Wing it.
Damn right, we wing it. So But I don't think we're unique in that sense, but I think the way that we end up working things out tends to be unique. I've run a few dungeons where we end up doing it my way or our way without these guys, and people are like, well, that's one way of getting it done. We don't do it like that. I mean, so we're definitely different, but we can at least try to give you guys some advice going forward in the future. So look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys want to ask questions, or you have anything you want us to talk about, or we haven't done everything, but I can say that for Otto and Pharaoh and myself, we did sort of finish the game. We got through the credits, so.
I just want to throw this out there real quick. One little tip for those who like to tank. When you do tanking, always tank the mob away from the healer. I noticed that once or twice, and the party wipes because he's tanking it where the monster's aiming at the tank plus the healer and everybody else, and it just wipes everybody out.
Yeah, it's a good point. And the healers, a lot of times, they run to the tanks, and you guys got to stop.
Yeah, big time. Like, that's a big no-no area.
Yeah, it's understandable, especially if you're new to the game, why you would want to do that. I get it, but yeah, you don't want to do that.
You know what? That's not necessarily true, because sometimes when you're a healer, and I'll give you an example, is Cutter's Cry, when you're fighting the ant at the princess one, and she summons the other little ants. Those little ants will 99.9% of the time go after your healer. That's something that I know a lot of people have had trouble with this ant boss too. So if you're the healer and you get the small ant aggro, what you're going to want to do is run to the tank. That's one that you will run to the tank, and then your tank should either flash or hit overpower or something to get them off of you, and that way the DPS can burn them down, and we don't have to chase them all over the damn place because you're running in a big giant circle.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, yes, in those kinds of situations, yes, you want to run to your tank, but when you're just doing your normal healing type thing, you don't want to be next to the tank in front of the boss. That's a bad place to be.
Well, last thing, I'm just going to repeat it again. Last thing I'm going to say here is communication. Make sure you guys, I don't know if you guys are in Mumble or TeamSpeak, just you have a chat box, utilize that. Talk to your group. I don't care if it's people you know or don't know, it doesn't matter. Make sure you figure out what you're doing, where you're supposed to stand, what you're supposed to do. Talk to these guys. Even if they don't want to talk back, at least you've made the effort. And then, hopefully you get a good group and they'll help you out.
Well, I think on that note, we're going to wrap it up. You guys have anything you want to get out, Otto or Tank?
Actually, I do. For those people that like to take out their anger on the legacy people, don't do that. Half the time you're going to meet a guy in a dungeon that's a legacy and he's going to be like the coolest guy you know. So be nice.
Okay, then. That's coming from a legacy player.
Don't be a dick, basically. Because trust me, we can actually help you out.
Yeah, just don't be a dick. If you're using the duty finder, and it's especially all this crap I'm seeing about speed runs, if you get into a duty finder and it's somebody's first time, and you get all pissy because you want to do a speed run and they want to watch the cutscene, you are the dick, not them. So knock that shit off. It's just not cool. Why don't you help each other? You know what I'm saying? Okay, and enough though.
So you tell me you telling me I could have watched the cutscene to the last quest? Really?
You did.
I watched like the last scene. That's it.
Well, whatever, dude. If you would have read your chat log, you would have seen that the dude was like, "I'm watching the cutscenes." So
I don't pay attention to chat logs.
Oh boy!
Sometimes.
Didn't we just go over this? Tank's like, make sure you talk. I don't pay attention to chat logs. All right, we're gonna wrap it up. So until next time, for Otto and Tank, I'm Pharaoh. This is Goblin Bomb Radio, and we'll see you on episode 7. Peace.